d'abord, vous allez avoir accès par Internet, vous vous connectez sur Internet et nous avons un site qui est dédié au congrès sur lequel vous allez pouvoir voir le programme qui a été un peu updaté par rapport à la brochure. Donc allez sur le site Internet. Ronan, tu peux mettre les indications du site. Donc pour vous connecter, c'est très simple, il y a, je crois, le code Wi-Fi qui a été donné. Et ensuite, vous avez accès au site Internet dont l'adresse est IAF-lo/congrès-lo. Tu peux venir m'expliquer ça?
Hello everyone. Yes, the new website for the IAF is available on this address. It's IAF-lo/Congress Cairo. You can find the program, and then we will also use Slido. So Slido is an application which is so you can download it, or you can go on the internet and type slido.com. It will allow you from the audience to ask questions or to give your thoughts. If you don't want to raise your hand and ask your question, you can do that by this application, and we will submit these questions to the moderators, and they will be able to pick this question and ask and reply to your questions. So you can go on slido.com and you can use this application. We will try to have this conference very dynamic and interactive, so please participate and we will reply, they will reply to your question. Thank you.
Can you repeat the website?
I'm going to display it on the screen.
Okay, so I hope you can all connect, and it's very important because I'm repeating this. IAF Congress is not an academic seminar. IAF Congress gives the opportunity to all of you to ask questions, but also to give your views on each topics. Our aim is to, of course, it's always easy to criticize. As lawyers, we know how to criticize. But the aim is to participate and to behave as a stakeholder of the football system. We think that as we are all experienced in the football law, we are the best expert to not only take part on the discussion, but to make propositions. And after each Congress, we try to write some recommendation, and these recommendations will be sent to the governing bodies, to any stakeholder who wants to pick up our ideas, and then also we are able to help in the debate, to make proposals, how to give ideas, how to handle and to settle issues. So your participation will make the success of this Congress. Don't be shy. Of course, we have also a microphone. If you prefer, you can ask a question or give your view, and be confident that we will give you the floor many times during each roundtable. So let's go for the first roundtable. Football 2.0, growing the games. So we have already Anthony Buffering from CAF. I would like to call Mario Galavotti from FIFA, and Mustafa Abdullah from CAF. So you can sit. I will sit in the middle, you can sit here. do we have microphone for the speakers, please? Est-ce que ça marche? Oui, ça marche. Football 2.0, growing the game. So, a few words of introduction. Since the chaos, we all know about the chaos in 2015, FIFA has decided to make a big transformation. At the beginning, a lot of lawyers, we read a lot of things, and we could see that maybe it's only words. It appears that it's not only words. Many things have already changed. Many things will change. And we would like to address in this roundtable the new, what they call, FIFA call Football 2.0, growing the game. This new method, a new method to govern the football. Formerly, FIFA was a pyramid, like the pyramids, Gizeh pyramid. Pyramid means that the power comes from the top of the pyramid, but at the same time, the top of the pyramid has been elected by all the clubs through their national association, the confederation, and the biggest governing body, FIFA. At the beginning, FIFA was settled to organize one competition, the World Cup. Things have changed a lot. We know that football nowadays is a business, but it's also football a very important social, it's so important regarding education, social behavior. So FIFA has to handle so many things. When I read all the documents, because nowadays you can read a lot. I think that there is a lot of much more transparency. You can read a lot, even on the FIFA website. You can learn a lot of what is going on. The main things who, for me, appear very important, it's a new terminology. New terminology meaning task force, stakeholder, consensus, consultation. So we can see that FIFA has settled a new way to govern, not in a vertical way, but much more horizontal way. But since it's difficult to manage, each of us in our country, we know that to govern is very difficult. So altogether, with my dear colleagues and guest speakers, we have decided to address 3 topics. We will talk about governance, the new way to make decisions. We will talk about competition, new format, and we will talk about transfer system. This is an open debate, and we would like, through this open debate, to introduce the next roundtables. As you can see, the roundtables will go deep in the details of the reform of the transfer system and in broadcasting right issues. So this first roundtable, feel free to imagine what could be the best tools to change the governance of football. So, first of all, Mario, maybe you can introduce yourself. I'm very happy because you were one of the very former IF members, but now life bring you in Cairo and Zurich. So I give you the floor, I give you my microphone. If you can talk about the governance.
In the meantime, you can, Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Patricia. Yes, as you said, it seems yesterday to me where you shared with me your idea to create this association. We were in a taxi going to the Geneva airport in 2012. This is a good opportunity for me to see so many friends. So I thank you again. Thank you very much for being here. And by combination, I'm in Cairo in this moment because I'm part of this FIFA delegation through this CAF FIFA partnership. So I'm particularly happy that this 7th edition of the IF Congress takes place in Cairo. I'm a lawyer by profession. Most of you know me already. After practicing law and sport law for many years, I don't want to say how many. Last year I joined FIFA, and in a very new, challenging position, FIFA decided to create a division of independent committees, and I was in charge to reorganize a bit the independent committees, the work of the judicial bodies of FIFA, not only at FIFA level but worldwide, at confederation level too. And during my experience in FIFA, it happened to advise also confederations on how to get organized on the governing matters and the judicial bodies matters. And this enriched me a lot because I heard and I learned many aspects of sport law. It's a fantastic organization from different points of view. So FIFA is a very privileged observatory of what is going on around the world on football. And then when we will talk about, I'm sure later, when the circumstances suggested this recent partnership between FIFA and CAF, I was enthusiastic to accept the invitation of the FIFA Secretary General to join here and being part of this mission. That's why I'm here in Cairo, working at CAF almost every week. I met the fantastic colleagues, and we are working, I hope, successfully for the improvements of the African football. Talking about the hurricane, as you said, that we had recently in the football world, I think we should make some history to understand the framework. FIFA is certainly a hybrid structure. Part governing body, public facing, part, as you said, a commercial entity, aiming to maximize the revenues for the purposes to reinvest them in the development of football. However, given this business model of FIFA, I'm not sure that the current structure is the most appropriate one. And I'm sure and I hope that this Congress will raise debates on what is the best model nowadays to govern football, not only at national and continental level, but worldwide. I think it's time for us to ask ourselves if the governing model, if the football governing model, which was created before the invention of television even, is still a valid, still efficient model to develop football at worldwide level. But the reality is, and I'm very sorry to say that before the United States Department of Justice indictments that you mentioned, before that, at FIFA there was no incentive to change the organization from the inside, nor at the member association level. So, for those who are in football, like me, since many years, we used to complain about FIFA inefficiency. We used to complain about alleged FIFA corruptions. But in reality, no one pushed for a real substantial change of the organization. Even the ISL scandal in early 2000 was not a catalyst for changes. I think that the Swiss authorities missed a good chance to change the organization from inside. For those who are not aware of ISL scandal, you can Google it, and you will see that we are talking about the most, by far, the largest scandal and corruption system in any sport organization in the world. However, nothing changed, and we needed 10 more years, and unfortunately another outside intervention to change the structure. And if we look at the changes, at the reforms efforts that we had in 2015, following the DOJ intervention, certainly the main change is the new leadership. We had a lot of changes in the governance, regulations, statutory changes we will talk about, I'm sure, in a while. But certainly the most relevant one is the new leadership. And it is interesting to note that since the new leadership came into the organization, FIFA returned to the member associations, so to the development of football, to confederations, as much as 4 times the money that they used to invest before for football development. 4 times more. But the revenues of FIFA did not increase 4 times. Actually, the revenues of FIFA did not even double. So this makes you aware of where the money was gone before. Because the returning 4 times more to the member association, this came only from a better management, not for improvement of revenues. For better management and for leadership stopping to invest in vanity projects like acquisition of hotels, like creating a museum, refurbishing, leasing and refurbishing an entire building downtown Zurich, or even producing a fields. Avoiding all those expenses, the award to DNAs increased 4 times. So this is, I think, the most relevant change. And as we discussed last night at dinner, the main change, the best change, is changing people. Because we can have the fantastic rules, but if the rules are not managed by good people, they are useless. However, my concern is that the 2015 reforms efforts were focused only on FIFA. And certainly FIFA improved, we have a new status, a new organization, and we will talk about the details in a while. But FIFA, part of the organization of FIFA are the confederation, the member associations, and the efforts made by the reformers in 2015 didn't touch the confederations or the member associations. So we now are experiencing a gap between certain reforms occurred at FIFA and the need of similar reforms at confederations level. The confederations are part of the FIFA organization, so we cannot change just the rules at FIFA or at governing of FIFA if we are not consistent with the similar changes at continental level or worldwide. So the question is this model of confederations a good model to promote, to run, to organize, to govern football? I doubt. And we had, from the privilege of service that I am experiencing now, several evidence that this is not an efficient model anymore. The president of FIFA is elected by the Congress, but all the other members of the council are elected at confederation level. So the only one elected by the Congress of FIFA is the president, who is facing all the responsibilities. And the confederations sometimes are conflicting with FIFA. We have experienced a conflict of interest between FIFA and other confederations. The most important example is probably the debate that we had last year about the opportunity to create new FIFA competitions worldwide, attracting very relevant investors from the financial community worldwide, and certainly an opportunity to improve and to increase, to develop football at worldwide level. And some confederations perceive that this opportunity as a threat to their own competitions. So this makes clear that with the current system we might have a conflict of interest between FIFA and the other stakeholders, rather than having the stakeholders contributing all in the same direction to develop football worldwide. This is just an example. We can have other examples. So I think that confederations, member association should make the job well, like FIFA is trying to do. And I think that this is the meaning. I don't want to anticipate what we are discussing later, but I think that this is the meaning of this recent partnership between FIFA and CAF. We are at the CAF headquarters, and so it was it's known to everybody that CAF was recently targeted by media, many allegations. So we had media reporting very relevant cases of corruptions in the referee system and some African competitions. So the executive committee of CAF was brave enough to ask the intervention of FIFA on their side to help, to try to create a new governance model, to help CAF and not only CAF, but the Member Association of Africa, African football in general, to improve their quality, their organization, their accountability, transparency, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later. So this is the main meaning, the most important meaning of this recent confederation and FIFA partnership. I hope I was not too long.
Thank you, Mario. So, changing people, changing rules, and as lawyers, we are very interested in how rules are decided and making rules, and changing it from the top, changing people, changing methods. It's, of course, efficient if in the pyramid everybody accepts change. So, I give the floor to Mustafa Abdullah. What do you think are the best tools to achieve this? I've read a lot of terminology, and one word I like very much is revamp. Revamp, so like a revolution. So to make a revolution is always difficult. Make a revolution need strong tools. And law are the strong tools. The best tool is separation of powers. We learned this for a long time ago, but in each our country we know that it's always difficult to make good rules and to implement them and to respect them. So what do you think are the best tools to achieve this revolution?
Merci Patricia. Je continue à mon intervention en français. Je pense qu'aujourd'hui, dans le monde du football, il est très important de prendre conscience que le monde change et nous avons besoin d'être accompagnés par rapport à ce changement. Accompagnés dans la mesure où il faut éduquer, il faut former, il faut lancer des alertes, il faut partager auprès de tous les participants, tous les acteurs du milieu du football. Si je prends un exemple assez concret, aujourd'hui, pourquoi dans le milieu du sport et notamment dans le milieu du football, nous parlons de la compliance. Compliance, la conformité. C'est quelque chose qui, de par mon ancien métier, qui était à la banque il y a les 15 dernières années, a commencé en 2007, 2008, 2009, à la suite des affaires que nous connaissons tous, la crise de subprime, la chute des Lehman Brothers et l'affaire Caviar. Il faut restructurer, parce que dans le milieu de football, aujourd'hui au XXIe siècle, nous parlons de l'argent. Le milieu de football fait partie des entreprises qui génèrent autant de revenus que les entreprises de CAC 40, d'Euronext ou de Nasdaq. Pour ce faire, chaque officiel, chaque participant, chaque personne ou entité qui travaille, qui contribue de loin ou de près dans ce milieu doit être accompagné, doit être formé. Nous devons lancer des process, mettre en place une procédure viable pour atteindre l'objectif de rendre conforme le milieu où nous évoluons. Je pense qu'il est très important de connaître un petit peu cette histoire, on va dire, ou l'arrivée de compliance, la conformité, qui débute dans les la moitié du XXe siècle par les crises financières aux États-Unis. Et puis en Europe, il y a eu en fait le droit de régner et que toute entreprise doit à propos de toute règle du droit. Et puis, de facto, ce qu'il faut retenir, c'est que cette passion que nous avons tous, nous devons interpoler ça par rapport au milieu de football et doit faire passer en fait cette passion du droit, ex post du droit, c'est-à-dire sanction de violation, en ex ante manifestation de respect. Je prends un exemple assez simple et basique. Aujourd'hui, il faut accompagner une fédération pour ne serait-ce que transmettre leur relevé de compte à la Confédération ou à la FIFA et leur informer qu'il y a un risque, on est au XXIe siècle, qu'il y a des hackers, il y a des gens qui sont capables de rentrer dans leur système et que l'argent qui devait leur revenir peut être transféré ailleurs. Il y a 5, il y a 10 ans, on ne se posait pas cette question. Mais aujourd'hui, c'est devenu d'actualité et c'est du must. Nous entamons une nouvelle relation, que ce soit au niveau fédéral, au niveau de confédération. Nous devons connaître, nous traitons avec qui. Avons-nous effectué des vérifications préalables? Connaissons-nous à qui nous parlons? Parce que la conséquence et les sanctions sont sans appel. Et c'est très lourd. D'où, aujourd'hui, pour reprendre à ce que Patricia disait tout à l'heure, un des éléments, un des outils qu'il fallait vraiment mettre en place, c'est cette sensibilisation, cet partage de pratiques et des formations nécessaires dans notre milieu du football, dans ce monde en plein essor, dans ce monde où, comme vous le savez tous, vous êtes des avocats, donc des pratiquants, où les transferts de joueurs, les changements, les clubs, les subventions venant de la FIFA doivent arriver aux bonnes destinations et le développement du football doit vraiment refléter ce que l'aspiration des dirigeants de football aujourd'hui ont et sur quoi ils ont été élus. Merci Patricia.
Donc les maîtres mots sont effectivement compliance, conformité en français, transparence, éducation, mais je rebondis sur des questions qui sont posées par la salle et je vais poser la question à Anthony Bafoué. Est-ce que cette révolution voulue et mise en place par la FIFA peut être appliquée sur le continent africain au niveau de la CAF, mais aussi au niveau des fédérations nationales? Et je voudrais aussi poser la question à Anthony Bafoué, qui est un ancien joueur, qui va se présenter lui-même. Oh, sorry, you can understand the French, yes? Ah oui, il parle français aussi. Comment faire en sorte que cette volonté de réforme soit comprise et mise en place? Est-ce qu'il ne faut pas inviter aussi tous les stakeholders, c'est-à-dire notamment les joueurs, à participer au niveau de leur propre fédération et à s'impliquer? Parce que, encore une fois, une règle qui vient d'en haut ne descend pas nécessairement, surtout lorsqu'on est sur un continent qui a ses spécificités, ses particularités, et peut-être implémenter un système mondial au niveau de certains pays est extrêmement compliqué, voire impossible.
Merci beaucoup. Je vais continuer en anglais. Donc, il va mieux exprimer en anglais. Thank you very much. I think one thing which is very important, if I look at my career, I played 15 years of professional football. I have done everything on the pitch, and then as well off the pitch. I've been involved in football development since in competitions since a very, very long time. My title is I'm the Deputy General Secretary in charge of football and development. I'm also a unionist. This is for you to know. I am the founder of Players Union in Ghana, and what you were talking about that involved all the stakeholders. I always remember the words of Gianni Infantino when he said you must involve the protagonists. Who are the protagonists? The protagonists are the players. And I was with him, it was 2016 when he started his campaign in Rwanda, and then he told me about his Legend project to involve more footballers in major roles, which happened that somebody like Boban became the Deputy General Secretary of FIFA, but he's no more working with FIFA, he left FIFA. You have Marco van Basten becoming the Chief Football Officer, and the involvement of more and more former players into the game, which was, I think, very, very important. FIFA created a lot of tools, like the FIFA Forward program, which helps a lot of member associations to get funding, up to $1 million a year in phases, but they must fulfill certain criteria. I remember being with the Players Union, talking about FIFA. They have something called MDAS, Member Development Accountability System. You're talking about transparency. This is very, very important to have this transparency. But then you need to be organized. You need to have key people in key positions to be organized. If I look at the development program in general, we have a lot of workshops where we bring the technical directors. Excuse me to say, but a lot of them didn't even know how to apply for the FIFA Forward project, for instance, to get funding to run their administration, to get funding to create better infrastructure and better possibilities also for players to feel at ease. You have a program called FIFA Connect. This is something which is very, very important. Once you have a computerized system, you get a digital pass, you register all the stakeholders, referees, coaches, and players, and you can track everything, even the international transfers, which is very, very important. And I believe that this is a must to develop football in general and to move ahead. Transparency is very, very important. There are a lot of programs for general secretaries, for executive directors, and which are also funded. And it helps them cooperating better with FIFA and with CAF. You saw also that there was a new centralized deal made in regard to the media rights. I will not go into details because our marketing and TV director, he will be on the panel to explain that further. But also this is part to help our competitions to run better and to have a great visibility. We have, for instance, the club licensing department, which is a very essential department to move ahead and to implement certain rules and regulations. This all goes with criteria, and I think that this is very, very important that FIFA involves all the stakeholders and creates transparency and proper structures to report. And at the end, FIFA gives you money, but they will also audit you to see how you have used the money. I can give you every month $50,000, but it must come with criteria. And this is very, very important. And I think we are on the right way. I'm learning every single day, and I'm ready to learn more. I've been, like I said, on the pitch. Now I'm off the pitch, and it's a very interesting period.
Thank you, Anthony. We have two, even three very interesting questions. So I give the floor to Mario. He would like to answer this question. Could you put the questions on the screen, please? Then everybody could see it. So the questions are addressed to Mario. And I give you the floor if you want to address.
I'm impressed, very, very good questions. And, matter. First of all, let me say that when people have doubts about the possibility of reforming the African football or inserting in the African football the same rules or, as I say here, the same certain football aspects that are not possible to insert in Africa because of the particularity of the African continent. Of course, this is a mistake, recurrent mistake, made in the past, in my opinion, where FIFA tried to impose and member associations or confederations trying to replicate the FIFA model. This is a mistake. We shouldn't replicate this mistake. I think that each member association, each confederation has its own specificities, and we should adapt the rules, the governance principles to the local or continental legal framework, culture, social environment, etc. So FIFA is helping in this circumstance, going back to CAF, the CAF, the African football, but I am here just since the end of August. I immediately noticed that what CAF and the African football did was just to replicate European models. Even in the competitions, Anthony, you have a championship, in the clubs competition like the Champions League, you have the Confederation Cup, which is should be the replication of the European Europa League. And this is not going to work. And as a matter of fact, you told me that those clubs spend more than they cashed from those competitions. So something is wrong. We shouldn't replicate something that is not enriching the system. So I think that FIFA, CAF, National Association, clubs, because the stakeholders are players and clubs, how is it possible that in the governing bodies of FIFA or confederations, with a few exceptions recently at UEFA, we don't have any representatives of players, we don't have any representatives of clubs. They are the real stakeholders of football. If we want to develop football, we should pay attention to players and clubs, more than to the National Association at the end. So even this is something that should be taken into account when we are talking about how to govern the African football. So the competitions in Africa should be different. In Africa, we have a huge problem, which is transportation, moving. When a club from South Africa has to play in Algeria, they have a 4 days travel, they have visa, they have problems with the borders. Those problems are not experienced in Europe. So, of course, we have to change, but also we have to take into account the specificities of Africa. We have other questions. Yeah, the stakeholders map. I think that this is the main issue. The stakeholders map, as I said, if we want to develop football at worldwide level, starting from Africa eventually, we have to make clear that the stakeholders are the clubs, the players, and the supporters, the fans. We have to pay attention to those stakeholders because clubs are developing football, players are the main actors of football. We had a very interesting meeting with African clubs recently, Anthony, at CAF. I was impressed. There are clubs in this continent at a very high level, very well organized, eager to compete, eager to grow. But they said that for the first time after 35 years, that was the first time that they were meeting someone from FIFA. And it was the president at that time. So I was shocked. How is it possible that African clubs didn't have any relationship with the governing body of football? The main problem here, of course, other than the transportation, is the infrastructures. Of course, infrastructure is the main one. We need to build at least one stadium with standards, international standards for each country. Egypt has 4 or 5 already, but there are countries with no stadium. And so we need to invest in the infrastructures, have at least one stadium for each country. And so in this way, we will develop football at the international level. There are clubs that want to compete. Talents, African players could remain playing and competing in Africa if the environment, the infrastructures, the competition would be successful. In this moment, they are not. And so that's why I think we should also review the competitions system. I don't know if we answered all the questions, but we will have time to do it.
Oui, alors, partager le pouvoir, c'est aussi accepter on le voit, de partager les ressources, de partager le business. Et une fois qu'on met tous les stakeholders autour de la table, on a vu en Europe le conflit lorsqu'on la FIFA a proposé une compétition nouvelle de clubs mondiale. Évidemment, l'UEFA a considéré que ça pouvait être aussi finalement une compétition par rapport à ses propres compétitions. Mais dans le même temps, les joueurs ne peuvent pas jouer plus qu'un certain nombre de matchs par an. Il y a un moment donné où les joueurs doivent être pris en considération. Alors j'ai une question peut-être un peu provocante. Est-ce qu'on met tous les stakeholders autour de la table? Est-ce que le système de l'élection est toujours pertinent pour définir le mode de gouvernance de l'ensemble de ces instances, qu'elles soient continentales, nationales, internationales? Le processus qui est d'élection, j'ai appris que maintenant les votes seraient transparents. Est-ce que c'est réellement le bon outil pour gérer cet immense business?
Well, and we have a new question. I think, yes, business is part of the game. Growing the game, we need doing good business. But, as I said, the specificity of FIFA is that FIFA is not a profit company. So we have to reinvest 100% of our revenues in football development. And this is the only aim of FIFA, developing football at worldwide level. How to do it? Through new competitions, through the training of new talent, infrastructures, training centers, competitions. Those are the 3 steps. Here in Africa, for example, and Africa is really particular geographically, politically, historically, there is a very good idea in the status of CAF of dividing Africa in 6 different zones. Geographically, mainly geographically identified, linguistic and geographically identified. However, my impression since I'm working on this project is that those zones have no development target, which I think should be the main objective of this geographical division. In other words, I think that due to the specificity of Africa, we should pay more attention and we should invest more funds and energies on the zones, on the regional zones, rather than at central CAF level. And this is not only true for the development of young talents. This is also true for the governance of the system, referees, for example. FIFA and CAF are now launching a project of a centralized refereeing system for Africa. The best international African referees will be the responsible of new academies of referees to be created at each regional level. And this is the only way to improve the quality of football in this continent. The same for governance. Maybe asking the 54 African member associations to have one disciplinary committee, one appeal committee, one governance committee, one review committee, one audit and compliance is impossible. How can you do it? And this is the FIFA model replicated or trying to be replicated at the national and continental level, which I said is wrong. So maybe we should centralize certain functions at regional level, and having, for example, one disciplinary committee for each region, taking care of the judicial, of the sport justice for that region, same for the referees. So I think we need to adapt our models to the real geographical, political, social, economical different situation. In Africa, we have countries that are extremely rich, well organized, and countries that are not organized and are poor. So we have to help them. And football is a fantastic tool to improve the quality of life, not only for in the sport community, but in general. And we are aware of the privilege that we have, but we should share, we should being active in trying to improve the quality of life in this continent through football.
Anthony, you have something to say, and then we give the floor to the audience.
Yes, I wanted to emphasize on what Mario said, especially in the zones, which is very important. But then also, what is, I think, essential to put the right people in the right places. As you also said in the beginning, you can have the best strategy, the best concept, but you need good people in there. We have a lot of competitions now in the zones, under 17, under 20, which is playing in the zones, which enables the young gentlemen of today also to play more matches. But I want to go deeper. There's also a great project to bring in football back into the schools and have a proper database so you can have a track record of players to eliminate, for instance, the age cheating problem. This is also very essential. We having workshops and seminars planned for competitions, also in the zones, so to have a better proximity in terms of the geographical situation. Mario said something which is so important, the traveling in Africa. just to exaggerate, from Holland to Belgium I can walk. I'm just exaggerating. But then in Africa it's very, very difficult. You have the Schengen Agreement. In Africa it is not easy to travel, even if somebody wants to go, for instance, to South Africa. It's not easy for the team to get a visa appropriate, and these are hindrances. But you see, we had a transitional season, also with the Champions League and the Confederation Cup, and then we also fixed the dates that Champions League is played on Friday and Saturdays, and Confederation Cup on Sundays. The preliminaries were already done in geographical manner, so it's very important to improve on the competitions on the African continent, and production costs are also not that cheap for most of the teams. But I believe that with this cooperation, and then if all stakeholders can be more involved, we get to where we want to be. And that meeting with the 16 top-ranked clubs was a great meeting, and it was like a think tank, and we got a lot of information out from there. Now it's good planning, good strategy, and good governance to implement these ideas.
Juste pour rajouter ce qui a été dit par Mario Antonio tout à l'heure, je pense qu'il y a un élément très important qui en ressort, c'est que aujourd'hui, il n'est pas utile ou nécessaire de juste répliquer ce qui se passe ailleurs en Afrique. Je prends un exemple concret. Mario avait cité tout à l'heure, par exemple, à la FIFA, ils ont une dizaine de rules, une dizaine de codes qui ont été implémentés. Est-ce qu'aujourd'hui, nous avons besoin de cela en Afrique? Est-ce que créer ou répliquer la même chose au niveau continental, aujourd'hui chez nous, est utile, est nécessaire? Un autre exemple concret, le rôle FIFA dit pour les cadeaux, la limite était de 200 CHF. Aujourd'hui en Afrique, est-ce qu'en tant que Chief Compliance Officer d'une confédération, je pourrais ou ne pourrais pas accepter à un de mes officiels qui rend visite à un roi au Ghana par exemple, ou au Sénégal, de lui donner un cadeau de 300 € ou 500 €, parce que le rôle au niveau international limite à 200 €. Il s'agit aussi de faire appel à notre bon sens, que nous devons être pragmatiques et adapter sans dévier tout ce qui est conforme, tout ce qui est juste. Quel est le besoin que nous avons aujourd'hui sur le terrain en termes de développement? Il y avait tout à l'heure, ils évoquaient le problème de stade. Avoir un stade aux normes internationales pour un pays X en Afrique est plus important que acheter le siège de la fédération par exemple. Et là, comme je disais tout à l'heure, on fait appel à du bon sens. Lorsque le projet FIFA Forward est attribué, qui est géré en toute transparence dans le cadre de bonne gouvernance, c'est à nous, les acteurs, de dire que voilà, je suis dans un pays X, mon besoin aujourd'hui, c'est sur ça, c'est le stade. On ne peut pas relever le niveau de la compétition dans un pays tant qu'on n'a pas les infrastructures adaptées. Donc, tout cela, en fait, m'amène à dire qu'il faudrait qu'on prenne les choses en main, il faudrait qu'on partage, qu'on étudie ensemble quelle est la meilleure approche pour pouvoir, en fait, avoir plus d'impact sur notre continent, sur notre football et sur notre spécificité, notre particularité. Merci.
Alors, on va passer un petit peu la parole à la salle et vous allez la reprendre. Une suggestion est de traduire tous les règlements en arabe. Moi, c'est vrai que je suis très choquée qu'en 2020, on ne soit pas capable de traduire tous les règlements dans au moins 10 ou 15 langues. Donc, ce sont des outils tout bêtes, mais la traduction quelque chose de faisable, ça ne doit pas être un investissement énorme, mais si on parle d'éducation et de possibilité pour tout le monde de s'impliquer, le minimum, c'est de permettre à tout le monde d'accéder au règlement. Donc je pense que c'est une bonne suggestion. Est-ce qu'il y a des questions dans la salle ou est-ce que vous voulez qu'on continue? On a plein de choses à dire, je ne vois pas de main se lever. Alors vous pouvez poser toujours vos questions sur Slido et je passe la parole à Mario qui a quelque chose à ajouter, je crois.
La traduction arabe, je suis tout à fait d'accord parce qu'il y a plus d'un milliard de personnes qui parlent arabe, donc ça va être très utile pour tout le monde d'avoir la traduction en arabe. No, I want to go back to what Mustafa was saying about this forward program. I mean, the forward program is a fantastic tool that the new FIFA administration put in place. Is 1.5 million per year, not 1 million in total, so it's a lot of money. But Mustafa is right. I'm not sure that this is the best system because nowadays the current system awards each member association with the same amount of money. So this new program gives the same amount of money to Egypt and as well as to Montserrat. I think that this doesn't make much sense. So I think we should switch into a need-based system, like Anthony and Mustafa said. So, but this requires a different organization. I think that FIFA should have regional offices around the world, trying to help national associations to make projects. We have, I don't remember exactly the number, Mustafa, maybe you can help me. We have more than 60% of the funds dedicated to Africa unused because the African member associations are not able to provide FIFA or to create 75% is a huge number. So we have a lot of funds there ready to be invested in football in Africa, but the African MAs are not in a position to provide projects, to make projects. So we need FIFA regional offices. That's why the importance of zones, to be really next to the member associations, helping them to find a project, to realize a project, to present a project. And we are now considering to create a fund dedicated to the infrastructures constructions for building new stadia on each African country. Only through new infrastructure you can develop football locally, because you can finally have competitions, international competitions. You can have young girls and young boys playing football, finally competing outside their own neighbor, their own country. So in this case, you develop quality and talents. This is very important, what you said.
We have an interesting question from Saz, I think. Could you put it on the screen? It's to Mario, but I think that everyone could give your view. Do you think that FIFA does enough to change life conditions through football? Should the federation, the clubs, be obliged? So my question, following this question, is: do you think that FIFA should oblige, make things mandatory with sanction, or should FIFA think on the basis of minimum standards? We've seen for the agent issue, minimum standards was a complete failure. So minimum standards is a way to govern. Other way is to oblige, but in this situation, it's very important to have mechanism of control to control, and this control commission or control should be independent. So it's a difficult frame to find. If you oblige, it's important to implement it, to enforce, but also to control. And I was always shocked, even if things are changed, that in sports, not only in football, it's the same governing body who make the rule, who make the police, who make the justice, and who make the administration. So things are changing, but changing probably needs to think about a new way to implement and to control.
First of all, we make the rules, we provide funds, but we have external experts assessing the quality of the projects. So this FIFA Forward program provides a central review made by external auditors, independent external auditors, assessing the quality of the project and of course the destination of the funds. So we have tools in place that allows us to assess if the funds are really well used for that specific project that was previously approved. The projects are approved at FIFA level by a development committee, which is formed not only by by football stakeholders, but also by independent members. So we have a development committee with the president of association, clubs, representative, players, representative, member association representative, confederation representative, and independent members who help us to assess if a project deserves to be funded. FIFA can change the life. FIFA tries to improve the quality of life, of course. But I am convinced that football is a fantastic tool to improve the quality of life, especially in those areas where football is also a social vehicle to improve their own membership to the society. I mean, how some young talent, a young boy, a young girl entering into the society. You are certainly aware that the FIFA's president was invited by the G20 to explain what FIFA can do, what football can do for the health of this world. This was a fantastic achievement, in my opinion, because finally the politicians, the heads of the most influential countries in the world acknowledge that football is not only a fantastic game, but is a tool to improve the quality of life. So the answer to this question is yes. I'm very convinced that football can improve the quality of life, and that FIFA just recently launched a project which is connected with education in schools, and through the FIFA Foundation, which is a parallel organization owned by FIFA just for social and responsibilities and the social projects, we already invested a substantial amount of money in the education. And as far as education is concerned, one regulatory tool that football has to induce clubs to invest in the education is the club licensing. So club licensing, again, that should be adapted on national and continental level, not just replicating the UEFA model, because the UEFA model of club licensing is not reasonable for any other place in the world. Even in UEFA we are discussing if it's still valid. But through the club licensing, yes, football regulatory bodies could insert provisions inducing clubs to invest in education, either sport education or social education, cultural education. And club licensing should be clear but strict. If you don't have this, you don't play. So if you don't have a good stadium, you don't play. If you don't have a good academy for boys and girls, you don't play. So only inducing clubs through the participation to the competition to invest in those things, we can increase the quality of football. And this is particularly true in Africa now.
I just wanted to add on the educational aspect, which I think is very, very important. I just give you an example. I think my first FIFA tournament I was in 2009. It was the under 17 in Nigeria, where Switzerland became world champion. And I had two young guys from Congo who were born in Germany, and they were playing for Germany. And then I met with them, and they said, "Oh, Tonton, we have to leave you." And I said, "Where are you going?" And they said, "They're going for classes, doing a competition." And this is a big difference. Like in most of the young competitions, African Cup of Nations, under 17, under 20, I don't really see that in Africa. And this is very important, that is a must to bring football back into the schools. And because not everyone is going to become a professional footballer. So it's a win-win situation. And for him to go home with education and be a footballer, or to only go home with education. So I agree with Mario also that it's very, very important to emphasize on this also in the club licensing regulation. But education is key.
So you think that the license systems is one of the best tools, but the license system should be applied differently depending on the region, so with different criteria, maybe. Is that right? Is there someone who wants to give their view about this, or shall we continue? So, Mario, you have a lot of questions addressed to you. There is one which is interesting. Do you think there is a chance of including lawyers, practitioners of football law, as stakeholders in the stakeholder committee? And of course, IF could be the right stakeholder, and I'm sure that we would be very happy to participate, to debate. So you have the floor, and I'm sure you have something to do as a lawyer.
I would be in a conflict of interest in that case, but I'm not a fanatic supporter of the current governing system of FIFA. I must say very clearly. Actually, I am very critical. With this, I think that the recent 2015 reforms were an overreaction to certain events. And we created a council of FIFA, which is a plethoric gathering with no independent, for example, no independent members, and I think with no relevance to the sport merit of the members. So I think that in the governing body, representatives of the associations who won the World Cup, female or male, should be represented. I mean, we should have a governing body with people elected, but also with people representing sport merit, and people coming from the civil society, like in the main corporations. So you always have the board of directors of the large corporations, members that are representing, that are independent and are representing the civil society. And I think that we need in football some contamination of ideas, of cultures. We always talk among ourselves, we are the best, we are certainly the only one who understands the word. I think we should share ideas with different people, coming from different areas, coming from different cultures. And this, we should create this through occasions like this, I mean events, but also through permanent insertion in people from the so-called civil society, I don't know if this is a correct expression, into the decision-making bodies of FIFA. FIFA recently introduced independent members in several committees that we have. Like I mentioned, the Development Committee, but also the Audit and Compliance Committee is chaired by an independent member and is formed by mainly independent members. The Governance Committee is formed by independent members, and the judicial bodies. So we started through this direction. For the first time, we consulted also agents through these task force meetings to implement the new agents regulations. But so we are starting consulting different professionals.
So I think it's time to stop. Is that right? You show me, what did you show me? Ah, there is a question. I'm sorry I can't see, but give the floor to the, yeah, please. Could you introduce yourself and ask your question, please?
Yeah. Okay, my name is Luke. Okay, so
We can't hear you. Could you check the microphone, please?
yeah. Hello, my name is Luke Kissop. I'm a lawyer from Cameroon, and I've been very, very attentive to all of what has been said here. I wanted to ask a question because to me it's about fusing our qualities. This question goes to Anthony, who works for CAF, which is the regulatory body. Do you not think it is important that with all the problems that we have, raised here concerning football governance, and especially with the local FAs and regulatory problems, don't you think it's important to bring in independent associations like AIAF, with all the experts, recognized experts, accredit them and ask that the local football associations work with AIAF in the development of their football projects and laws? That's the question I wanted to ask. Je peux poser la même question en français à M. Galavotti, qui vient de la FIFA. En fait, c'était pour savoir si est-ce que la FIFA ne pourrait pas mettre en place, c'est-à-dire obliger les associations qui veulent bien aider de travailler avec cette association, c'est-à-dire l'AIAF, pour le développement de leur football local, surtout sur le plan de la réglementation. Parce que, comme il a si bien dit, il y a tellement de fonds, mais il faut pouvoir monter des projets qui sont viables et qui sont vérifiables, avec lesquels on peut faire beaucoup de comptabilité. Merci.
Je crois que le tribunal arbitral du sport a mis en place un système d'avocats pro bono lawyers, et je pense que c'est une très très bonne initiative. Et que je suis certaine qu'au niveau de l'AIAF, il y a beaucoup d'avocats qui seraient d'accord pour accompagner des fédérations pro bono, si la fédération est effectivement pauvre, ou par un petit groupe, et de partager l'expérience avec des avocats locaux, parce que je pense que c'est très important de prendre en compte la culture locale, et justement de ne pas venir importer des méthodologies, mais de partager l'expérience. Et ça, effectivement, je pense que c'est... Merci pour cette proposition, je pense que c'est une très bonne idée. D'autres questions? Oui, Ashta?
Oui, bonjour Patricia. Ashta Mansaleh, directrice des affaires juridiques de la CAF.
Parlez plus près du micro parce qu'on entend très mal ici.
C'est une question un peu ouverte. Je me pose la question par rapport à ces fonds FIFA qui ne sont pas utilisés par les fédérations nationales. Je me demande, puisqu'on dit toujours qu'ils ne sont peut-être pas au courant qu'il y a ces fonds non utilisés, mais je me demande, est-ce que ça n'a pas un lien aussi avec la gouvernance? Parce que je connais un peu nos pays africains. Quand on parle d'argent, il y a aussi beaucoup de corruption, je veux dire, de mauvaise utilisation de ces fonds. Donc, est-ce que vous ne pensez pas, c'est une question ouverte à tout le monde, on y réfléchisse, est-ce que le fait que la FIFA va contrôler l'utilisation de ces fonds et que les infrastructures qu'on dit qu'on va construire sont effectivement construites, est-ce que ça ne décourage juste pas? C'est une question vraiment ouverte que je me dis, parce que c'est facile de dire que les fédérations ne connaissent pas. Moi, travaillant dans une confédération, je pense qu'on est aussi un peu responsable de sensibiliser les fédérations pour leur dire qu'il y a des fonds, si vous avez des projets, il y a des fonds de FAFO, surtout maintenant pour le cas de la CAF, on travaille très étroitement avec la FIFA. Donc je pense qu'il faut qu'on puisse savoir si, à notre niveau, on fait déjà cette sensibilisation-là. Je sais qu'on a une vision de développement au niveau de la CAF qui fait beaucoup de travail avec l'utilisation du fonds FAFO. Mais j'ai eu ce petit sentiment-là, parce que je travaille aussi en Afrique, et je sais qu'on se dépêche en général de faire le projet quand on sait que dans ce projet-là, on peut un peu mettre de côté quelque chose sans que ça soit vu. Donc est-ce que ça décourage aussi ou pas? Je ne sais pas si c'est clair, Mario.
Anthony, Monsieur Lafrance, certainement des choses à dire pour ça.
I'll give it to Mustafa to talk about the other part. I just want to talk about the development part that now is increasing. Inside CAF also we have officers, managers dedicated to the FIFA Forward program. Also in the technical development department, we've had a lot of workshops to ensure that the member societies understand the project of FIFA Forward, and this is moving on now. We were also very, very shocked when arrived at the Confederation of African Football was the confederation who least used the FIFA Forward fund, but it's increasing. And we're really moving into the right direction with it.
Merci Ashra pour ton intervention. Effectivement, en fait, si on regarde de près, dans le cadre de gestion de FIFA Forward, nous pouvons aussi dire qu'il y a la responsabilité de tous et que nous devons tous nous engager pour aller de l'avant. Mais ce n'est pas que ça, il y a autre chose. En fait, des efforts ont été mis en place. Je me souviens antérieurement, au mois d'avril dernier, nous étions à Zurich avec l'équipe de M. Véron en charge de FIFA Forward, et tellement des investissements, des facilitations ont été mis en place. Je suis désolé de le dire, mais les membres associations et les fédérations, aujourd'hui, ils savent tous l'existence de ce fonds. Je peux répondre ça facilement parce que je suis en contact avec eux lorsqu'il s'agit d'effectuer des virements vers les fédérations ou lorsqu'il s'agit d'envoyer des subventions annuelles vers les fédérations. Donc ils reviennent vers moi en me demandant qu'en est-il de fonds FIFA Forward, comment les utiliser. Aujourd'hui, avec le FIFA Forward 2.0, il est possible de dupliquer. C'est-à-dire un projet qui a marché en Égypte, la construction de centres d'excellence et le siège de la fédération en Égypte avec 2 terrains de foot, un pays comme la Mauritanie peut dupliquer à son échelle et son projet sera validé. Premièrement. Deuxièmement, la FIFA a déployé des efforts considérables en créant des directeurs qui suivent le projet en Afrique sur 3 zones. Un basé à Dakar, un basé à Addis, Éthiopie, et un troisième pour le zone sud Kosafa, basé en Afrique du Sud. Qu'est-ce qui manque, je pense, c'est la bonne volonté ou le courage de surpasser, de dépasser les préjugés, parce que c'est un fonds FIFA Forward, c'est un fonds FIFA. Du coup, à demain, ils vont venir nous auditer, il faut expliquer. En fait, nous n'acceptons pas de dépasser ce préjugé de contrainte d'utilisation de fonds. Mais concrètement, aujourd'hui, si vous gérez de l'argent qui ne vous appartient pas, qui appartient à l'institution, qui est dédié vers un but précis pour la construction, pour le développement de football dans votre pays, je ne vois pas où est le problème. Pourquoi se restreindre? Pourquoi se retenir à ne pas profiter de ce fonds? Je pense qu'il faut vraiment il faut combiner notre synergie, que ce soit au niveau de la confédération, au niveau de la fédération, et surtout, je pense, je salue d'ailleurs l'idée de notre secrétaire général à la CAF, Mouad Haji, d'avoir nommé une personne dédiée qui va suivre le projet FIFA Forward au niveau de la confédération. Pourquoi? Puisque ça va permettre de fluidifier. Je pense qu'il faudrait diffuser plus largement quels sont les projets éligibles, comment en fait demander ce fonds, comment décaisser ce fonds, sur quelle partie, quelle branche, les tranches qu'il faut suivre. Je pense qu'il y a ce travail d'accompagnement. Aussi, redire à chacun d'entre nous quand nous retournerons dans notre pays, que ce fonds FIFA Forward 2.0, les conditions et les contraintes ont été aménagées. Donc aujourd'hui, il y a une possibilité, surtout pour nous les pays en Afrique, les pays africains, il y a une possibilité vraiment de faire beaucoup de choses pour le développement du football en Afrique. Mais ceci dit, je rejoins juste en fait par rapport à l'intervention d'Achta. J'ai vu une question tout à l'heure de Gustavo Pedro regarding the financial compliance. I think that the question was, this rule should be applied within the member association to allow them to participate to the FIFA competition or the football competition. It should be. Because we have to think that today, the matter of
de faire beaucoup de choses pour le football en Afrique. Mais ceci dit, je rejoins juste en fait par rapport à l'intervention d'Achta. J'ai vu une question tout à l'heure que le ministre Pedro regarding the financial compliance. I think that the question was, this rule should be applied within the member association to allow them to participate to the FIFA competition or the football competition. It should be. Because we have to think that today, the matter of the money, the financial matters, the compliance is our responsibility. All of us is our compliance. So as stakeholders in the organization, as players, as officials, as member of the administration body, if you have the right to government organization, we have to be clear on that how to spend and money. You are our money. It's for I know that you know for the game. When it's relevant our financial matter, it can be considered as a legal matter. So my organization today is not for us to be fully compliant on the passage to be allowed to participate to the competition of FIFA, but it should be encourager nos fédérations, nos membres associations. Because if you have a way of partager the transfers of how to earn the money, how to spend the money, is not our money. Le fonds existe for the constitution.
this is for the game, for our coach, for our women. So let's start to be, like I said in the beginning, in my introduction French, let's cause our economies. So, juste je rejoins la dernière fois ce que Acha a dit, effectivement, il faut encourager le projet fédération, nos membres associations, et partager l'action en leur disant que aujourd'hui, il y a des fédérations qui se plaignent, ils n'ont pas de moyens de transposer, ils n'ont pas d'argent. Le fonds existe.
Je pense que nous devons...
Soyez créatifs. Vous les parents, les projets, après un cabinet de consultants, vous payez un cabinet de consultants à 5 000 euros, à 10 000 euros, ils vont vous remettre un projet en béton qui va vous permettre de décaisser, de dégager du fonds pour pouvoir investir dans votre pays, dans votre fédération. Faites appel à eux, faites appel aussi à tous les projets qui ont été déjà approuvés et validés par la FIFA. La FIFA aujourd'hui accepte de recopier ces projets-là et de le retranscrire dans notre pays. Je pense que nous devons tous aller de l'avant et travailler main à la main et combiner notre synergie pour le bien du football. Merci.
Et je crois que ces mots vont conclure cette première table ronde, parce qu'on a déjà pris un petit peu de retard. On va expliquer qu'en Égypte, c'est normal le retard. Tout de même, on va faire une petite pause pour un shot. Ah, non. Nasser, you want to say something?
Something just quick. I mean, for sure I know about the follow program.
We can't hear you. Could you speak loudly?
Yes, now I know about the follow program and how football in Africa need more development. And I hear about that many projects to be applied to CAF and FIFA to take maybe the $5 million and maybe many member associations have said cannot present the right projects to be implemented. I want to highlight a very important point, is education. I think education is very important, and as me, as a lecturer for the FIFA CIS program here in the Pro Executive Certificate of Sports Management in Egypt, I know that CIS is making a lot of development in this program FIFA, and it has 3 universities agreement in South Africa, Senegal, and Cairo. And I can say, after we had the 11th edition last year, graduated here in Egypt, and when I was attending the AFCON in Egypt this year, most of the alumni of the program here in Egypt was participating in the management and organization of the tournament. I see also a lot of alumni from CIS, master in the CAF as well. So education, and you see how the tournament was very successful this year. So why we don't increase? Don't wait to the member association to present something. You have, for example, an athletic education program would be increasing CIS to be part of this money and increase in another African countries. You cannot be like 54 countries and just have this program in only 3 countries. So this could be an idea how we develop Africa in the end, because people, if you develop the people, then you develop the game, not just the infrastructure that one, for example, don't here in Egypt, maybe presented to make like a big stadium or something. I think we need to develop more our African people, and then the game will be more developed with CAF and FIFA as well. Thank you.
Merci Nasser, je pense que l'AIAF est à la disposition également des fédérations, confédérations. Il y a beaucoup d'entre nous qui enseignent, vont dans les universités, participent à l'éducation. Je pense que tous les membres de l'AIAF sont d'accord pour donner de leur temps et partager leur expérience. Alors on va clôturer sur... Nous allons faire un coffee break de 15 minutes et dans 15 minutes on revient pour la table ronde suivante. Merci à tous.